Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going through my top 24 overall rankings and tiers for the 2024 fantasy football season. But before we can get on into my top 24 overall rankings, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top 24 overall rankings and tiers for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with the S tier at number 1 with Christian McCaffrey, running back of the San Francisco 49ers, current underdog ADP running back 1 at pick 1.2. Now, when it comes to any of these guys in the S tier, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, and CeeDee Lamb, I don't think I have to do some crazy dissection operation style of any of these players, right? We all know how great these guys are. Christian McCaffrey, to me, is the best running back in the National Football League. He doesn't really have many chinks in his armor. The only downside to Christian McCaffrey right now is that he's getting a little bit older, but frankly, this guy is still the best overall running back in the NFL, in my opinion. He was the running back 1 in PPR last season, number 1 in PPR points per game, playing in 16 games. He was 2nd in carries, 1st in rushing yards, 4th in targets, 3rd in receptions, 2nd in receiving yards, and 1st in total touchdowns, 5th in true yards per carry, 3rd in yards per touch, 1st in yards created, and 4th in dominator rating at the running back position. This is a San Francisco 49ers offense that is loaded to the gills. This is going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. So assuming that Christian McCaffrey is able to stay healthy, to me, he is a shoo-in to be a top 3 running back in fantasy football and could very well likely be the running back 1 yet again. So I got him as my number 1 overall player. At number 2, we got Tyreek Hill, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, current underdog ADP wide receiver 2 at pick 3.2. Now, the wide receiver on underdog that is number 1 is actually my 2nd ranked wide receiver, and that is CeeDee Lamb, who is player number 3. Now, Tyreek Hill last year did end up getting hurt up against the Tennessee Titans, so he played only 16 games last season. Now, despite the fact that he only missed 1 game, the end of his season was severely impacted by that injury. It really seemed like Tyreek Hill was on the trajectory to be the number 1 wide receiver in all of fantasy football prior to that injury. Wide receiver 2 in PPR, points per game, wide receiver 9 on the season. He was 3rd in targets, 2nd in receptions, 1st in receiving yards, and 2nd in total touchdowns. While the Miami Dolphins have a myriad of weapons on this team, they got Jalen Waddle away, they got Tyreek Hill, they have Odell Beckham Jr. now, they have Devin Two Chains, they have Mostert, right? They have these options to throw the ball to. They add Jonnu Smith as well. But ultimately, while they have all these guys, when push comes to shove, you know who's getting the ball. When the game is on the line, you know who the ball is getting thrown to. You know who Tua Tagovailoa views as the safety blanket, and that is Tyreek Hill. This guy should finish top 3 in targets yet again. I really do believe he could easily finish with over 2,000 receiving yards. I think that he should have done that last season if he didn't end up getting hurt. A lot of people like to make fun of Tua, but Tyreek Hill was 5th in target accuracy, 1st in yards per route run. Now, he did have a problem with drops last year, 2nd in drops, but that's okay when you get 171 fucking targets and 1st in route win rate. To me, Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and that's why I have him ranked as the highest wide receiver. At number 3, we got CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys, underdog ADP wide receiver 1 at pick 2.1. Wide receiver 1 last year in PPR, number 1 in PPR points per game. This is a Dallas Cowboys offense that essentially ran it back from last season. I know they cut ties with Tony Pollard because that guy was about as effective as using a trash bag as a condom, but ultimately CeeDee Lamb is going to be going into a situation that's very similar, where he is the undisputed number 1 target in this offense. I know that it will all probably collapse in the playoffs like it always does for the Cowboys. Sorry, Cowboys fans, but at the end of the day, CeeDee Lamb is that guy, one of the best top 3 wide receivers in the NFL, in my opinion. He was number 1 in targets, number 1 in receptions, number 2 in receiving yards, and 1st in total touchdowns. This guy is simply amazing. 6th in target accuracy, 5th in yards per route run, 9th in dominator rating, 9th in route win rate. I think CeeDee Lamb can easily repeat what he did last season. and is clearly a candidate to finish as the #1 overall player at the skill positions and the #1 wide receiver overall. Moving now to the A tier, this is where things start to open up. We got players 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in this tier. At number 4, we got Justin Jefferson, Jay Jetta's wide receiver of the cold like Minnesota Vikings, underdog ADP wide receiver 4 at pick 5.5. Just like with the S tier guys, while these guys to me aren't necessarily the cream of the crop, right? The top guys, tippity top guys. These are still some of the top guys. These are still guys that I am ecstatic to draft. Now, Justin Jefferson and the Minnesota Vikings might be in some turmoil right now due to his contract situation, but that's not something I'm going to worry about in May. Justin Jefferson is one of the best, arguably the best wide receiver in the National Football League. I understand that J.J. McCarthy isn't the best pure passer we've ever seen enter the NFL, but you don't need Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball when you are Justin Jefferson, right? Kirk Cousins was just fine. Other quarterbacks would be just fine for Justin Jefferson as well, and I think J.J. McCarthy is just fine enough. Wide receiver 5 in PPR points per game last season, 10 games played, but the guy still had 100 targets, 10 per game. He had 5.8 receptions per game, 107.4 yards per game, and 5 total touchdowns, so 0.5 touchdowns per game. And while I am a Kirk Cousins truther, Justin Jefferson averaged the 69th, very nice, I like, but not in this situation, target accuracy. 69th, 4th in yards per route run, 6th in yards per target, 13th in yards per reception. I think even with J.J. McCarthy, or maybe even mono man Sam Darnold for a little bit, Justin Jefferson is going to be A-OK. At number 5, we got Breece Hall, running back of the New York Jumbo Jets, underdog ADP running back 3 at pick 7.7. Now, the reason why we do these rankings in a tier is because I view these guys very similarly. Very similarly. The reason as to why they are ranked at each spot is just a slight lean one over the other. These guys are all very similar in the same tier. You could easily make an argument to want to draft Bijan Robinson, who is my number 7 ranked player, over Breece Hall. Breece Hall, running back of the Jumbo Jets, underdog ADP running back 3 at pick 7.7, running back 2 last year in PPR, running back 6 in PPR points per game. Basically, the worst thing that could have happened for the Jets happened. Aaron Rodgers got hit down bad in the first game, 7 fucking seconds into the game. It was some premature ejaculation type of shit where you finally get in there in the sack with a new chick. You're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. You stick it in there and then it's over before it even started. That is exactly what happened with the Jets season last year with Aaron Rodgers. And despite the fact that they had to deal with the MILF hunter, Zach Wilson, that Trevor fucking Simeon played games, Breece Hall was still dominant 50 Shades of Grey style. Again, on an offense that was completely flaccid. He was 14th in carries, 13th in rushing yards. No one seems to really, or not, people don't tend to talk about this as much as I think they should. He was technically the best pass-catching running back in the NFL last year. First in targets, first in receptions, first in receiving yards, and 12th in total touchdowns. I don't think Aaron Rodgers coming back, I don't think he's necessarily going to be his old self. But I don't think this offense needs Aaron Rodgers to be the old Aaron Rodgers discount double check State Farm fucking commercial man for Breece Hall to be successful. He was 11th in yards per touch, 30 yards created, first in dominator rating. I love Breece Hall this season, and I think he could easily end up eclipsing Christian McCaffrey as the running back number 1. Again, there is just a slight difference between the S and the A tier. I'm very confident in all of these players. At number 6, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions, underdog ADP, wide receiver 5 at pick 6.1. I know some people in the comments right now, Nick, how in the world do you have Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked ahead of Jamar Chase? Again, it is by a very little margin. I'm not locking these rankings in stone either in May for what my opinion will be in late August, early September, because things could change. Underdog ADP, wide receiver 5, pick 6.1. Wide receiver 4 last year in PPR, 3 in PPR points per game. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been fantastic his whole NFL career, and the team paid him for that. He got a fat contract. 16 games played last year, 5th in targets, 2nd in receptions, 3rd in receiving yards, and 5th in total touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be one of the most reliable wide receivers week in and week out due to that high target share. I know a lot of people also like to make fun of Jared Goff, but Amon-Ra St. Brown was 8th in target accuracy, 7th in yards per route run, 12th in true catch rate, and 5th in contested catch percentage. This is another guy on one of the best offenses in the NFL on a team that loves to throw the rock. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense, and another guy that I could easily see finishing as the wide receiver number 1. At number 7, we got Bijan Robinson, running back of the Atlanta Falcons, underdog ADP running back 2 at pick number 7. Now, this is not going to be a situation where I'm going to sit here and make fun of Arthur Smith for 5 minutes, because that's exactly what I could do. And that's what I did do last season, right? Bijan Robinson gets drafted so high in the 2023 NFL draft, and for some absurd reason, Arthur Smith, who has a thumb stuck directly up his ass, had no idea what he was doing and completely screwed over Bijan Robinson in his rookie year. Now, Bijan Robinson had a solid rookie year, right? Compared to other rookie seasons, right? He was great. Shout out Tony the Tiger. They're great, right? Great. But Arthur Smith kind of put the nail in the coffin of what could have been an elite, a top of the charts, back in your hearts. Great season out of Bijan Robinson, running back 9 in PPR, 16 in PPR points per game, tied with Derrick Henry, 17 games played, 16 starts, 19th in carries, 15th in rushing yards, 3rd in targets, 6th in receptions, 4th in receiving yards, and 20th in total touchdowns. 16th in true yards per carry, 9th in yards per touch, 5th in yards created, and 16th in dominator rating. Now, with a brand new head coach there, I believe that Bijan Robinson is the clear workhorse running back on this team. Are they going to use other running backs? Of course, Tyler Algier is good enough to get usage, right? But I don't think this is going to be some type of split that will end up having Bijan Robinson owners, the people that draft Bijan Robinson, being very disappointed. I think Kirk Cousins, Kirk O'Chains, Kirk Thuggins, Coles Cash Kirk is going to come out and ball out for the Atlanta Falcons. I love that Arthur Smith is gone. I love the talent that Bijan Robinson possesses. I love that the quarterback position isn't a flaming pile of dog shit. I am very excited about Bijan. Again, I'm not trying to give all these guys the gawk gawk 9,000 special, right? These guys are all great. Bijan, another guy, no one's going to be surprised if Bijan finishes the running back 1. No one's going to be surprised if next year Bijan Robinson is a top 3, maybe even the number 1 overall pick in fantasy football drafts. At number 8 to close out the A tier, Jamar Chase, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, underdog ADP wide receiver 3 at pick 4.2. If you guys have enjoyed thus far, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Whether you are new to the channel or not, hit that like button. If you're new, you can hit the subscribe button. I guess technically, if you're not new and you've watched a couple videos, haven't subscribed, make sure you do that as well. Wide receiver 11 last year, 12 in PPR points per game. This is a Cincinnati Bengals team that came out the gate bad. They started to get hot, and then Joe Shiesty gets hurt. Joe Burrow should be good to go for the start of the season. There was a lot of rumors about maybe T. Higgins being gone, but it seems like T. Higgins is kind of stuck there for the season. Jamar Chase, obviously the wide receiver 1 in this offense. 11th in targets last year, 11th in receptions, 12th in receiving yards, 18th in total touchdowns. In terms of efficiency, 9th in target separation, 16th in yards per team pass attempt. When Joe Burrow is healthy, Jamar Chase, any given week, could score 30-plus points and be the single reason why you beat your opponent. Jamar Chase, another one of these guys. Again, I'll put the knee pads away. That is one of the best receivers in the National Football League. I don't think there should really be any debate on ranking Jamar Chase as a top 5 wide receiver. Now, I know for some people, Nick, yeah, or technically he would be my wide receiver 6, because when we go down the wide receiver courts, Tyreek 1, CeeDee Lamb 2, Jefferson 3, Amon-Ra St. Brown 4, and apparently I don't know how to do math, because Jamar Chase would be 5, so my wide receiver 5. Some people say, Nick, that's too low. Again, slight lean to Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jamar Chase. Again, sorry that I have no idea how to count. I think Joe Burrow looks great with his Anakin Skywalker haircut. I think that Joe Burrow is going to be able to elevate Jamar Chase back into being a top 5 guy weekly in fantasy football. Next up, we move to the B tier here at number 9 with my guy, Puka Nacua, wide receiver of the LA Rams, underdog ADP wide receiver 6 at pick 9.3. Now, I won't sit here and pretend like I am the founder of the Puka Nacua fan club. What I will say is that I did catch, towards the end of the offseason, really catch that Puka Nacua fever, and I started talking him up a little bit more. Now, again, I wasn't banging the drum aggressively. I wasn't talking him up every single day on the videos, but I did kind of catch wind of it, and I even drafted him on one of my teams. He was a guy that was a league winner last year, right? He took over as the #1 wide receiver from Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 6 off the board, pick 9.3, wide receiver 4 in PPR and 6 in PPR points per game, 7th in targets in 17 games, 8th in receptions, 4th in receiving yards, 27th in total touchdowns, 6th in yards per outrun, 9th in yards per team pass attempt, and 26th in dominator rating. Do I think that Cooper Kupp is going to fully fade away like a shot from Michael Jordan? No. I don't think Cooper Kupp is going to fully dissipate from this offense. But if we see something similar to what we saw last year, production-wise, out of Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford was another guy that didn't necessarily start the season out the hottest, Puka Nacua is a guy that should easily finish as a top 8, top 6-ish wide receiver, strictly based upon volume. This is a Rams team that I am not necessarily the highest on, but should be good enough offensively for Puka Nacua to finish around where he's getting drafted right now as the wide receiver 6. And the upside to go Puka nuclear, right, to go absolutely crazy, 25 kill streak, Modern Warfare 2, would be just instead of 6 touchdowns, he sees 150 plus targets, he gets those 100 receptions, and then he scores 8 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns. He scores fucking 12 touchdowns. You're talking about Puka Nacua as having one of the better wide receiver seasons I'd be able to remember, right? You have 100 plus targets, or 100 plus receptions. You have 1,400, 1,500 yards, and 12 fucking touchdowns. That's amazing. So Puka Nacua is a guy, again, that is clearly going to be the #1 receiver on his team. Again, Cooper Kupp's going to have his games in there. There might be some down games out in Nacua, but I do feel like based on his target share last season, he's going to be very consistent yet again. At number 10, we got Saquon Barkley. Now, 3 out of 5 of the guys in the B tier are running backs. To me, once you get towards the back half of the first round is where the running backs, to me, start to be a lot more prevalent. They start to really excite me on a much higher rate than the wide receivers. Again, this doesn't mean that I don't like the wide receivers that we're going to be talking about in the C tier, but the running backs here, to me, it feels like I just like the running backs a little bit more. So Saquon, running back of the Eagles, underdog ADP, running back 5, pick 15.6, running back 13 in PPR last year, 9 in PPR points per game. I know Saquon Barkley was disappointing last year, but this was a Giants team that was a complete and utter fucking disaster. They had Tommy DeVito, the Italian stallion, throwing touchdowns for him. Everything went wrong. Everything went wrong. Daniel Jones looked like fucking Stevie Wonder trying to throw the ball, and Saquon Barkley wasn't the best. But now Saquon Barkley moves from one of the worst offenses in the NFL to one of the best behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Last year's stats weren't the best, right? I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat things. 14 games played, 8th in carries, 16th in rushing yards, 15th in targets, 20th in receptions, 20th in receiving yards, and 11th in total touchdowns, though he was 3rd in dominator rating, 18th in yards created, 15th in breakaway run rate. We know how much the Eagles love to run the ball. I get there are going to be some games where you are incredibly frustrated because, oh my God, Jalen Hurts fucking ran in 2 touchdowns and now Saquon didn't score that many points. Sure, that is going to happen. But it doesn't scare me so much to where I would be super nervous to draft Saquon. I feel like he's a pretty safe running back this year. At number 11, we got Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, the argument between Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley is essentially safety, wrapping the rubber around your team, versus the, in my opinion, kind of more of the boom or bust play in Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs has all of the upside that Saquon Barkley has, except for there's a little bit more risk attached, not because of the offense that he is in, but because of the fact that behind Saquon Barkley, it's not like we're going to be seeing some other running back fucking sniffing up his ass trying to get more targets, right? Whereas, or touches, whereas Jahmyr Gibbs, we already know David Montgomery's there. David Montgomery's not going bye-bye anytime soon. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is so good that he doesn't need that crazy workload. He doesn't need that McCaffrey, that Breece Hall, that Bijan Robinson workload to be successful. That Saquon Barkley workload. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Mia Malkova, I do think that when it comes to safety, Saquon is just obviously safer because you know the volume is going to be there every single So running back 10 last year in his rookie year, 8 in points per game, 15 games played with 3 starts. Now, if something was to happen to David Montgomery, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries. I'm a David Montgomery truther. If something was to happen to David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs would instantly jump up to be like a top 3 running back every single week in my rankings because of how great the Lions are. Solid O-line, great offense, and Gibbs is just great. So in a slightly different situation where David Montgomery is just gone, Jahmyr Gibbs is way higher up in the rankings. 28th in carries, 17th in rushing yards. But again, 8th in targets, 9th in receptions, 16th in receiving yards, 9th in total touchdowns. He's 7th in true yards per carry, right? This is a guy that has the skills to pay the metaphorical bills. It's just the situation pushes him slightly down for me. Again, if you want to argue back and forth in the comment section, oh, I like Jahmyr Gibbs better, that's fine. It is a very small margin between all of these guys in my rankings. At number 12, we got Jonathan Taylor. Now, Jonathan Taylor is going to be a very hot topic where the fucking goth people shop, right? Because Jonathan Taylor, a couple years ago, we were talking about Jonathan Taylor as, oh my gosh, this guy's the guy, this, that, and the other thing. And then last year, we're talking about, oh my gosh, is Jonathan Taylor going to get traded? What's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor? And then Jonathan Taylor comes back. He's banged up, misses the first 4 games with an ankle injury. And then he gets messed up in the middle of the season with a torn thumb ligament. He's the running back 6 off the board right now, pick 15.9, running back 33 in PPR, but 12 in points per game. 16.9 carries per game, 74.1 rushing yards per game, 2.3 targets, 1.9 receptions, 15.3 receiving yards per game, and then he scores 8 total touchdowns, 6th in dominator rating. I don't think by any means Jonathan Taylor is washed up. The argument against Jonathan Taylor right now is going to be, how does this offense look for a whole season if Anthony Richardson's able to stay healthy? How much can they commit? Is Anthony Richardson going to kind of cuck Jonathan Taylor out of touches? What's going to happen there? To me, I'm just going to believe in the talent. I think Jonathan Taylor is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. I think the Colts are an up-and-coming offense, a better offense than they were just a couple of years ago when Jonathan Taylor was on top of the world. So I see no reason as to why Jonathan Taylor can't finish as a top 5 back. Running back 6 right now off the board. Closing out the B tier, we got Maserati Marvin Harrison of the Arizona Cardinals, underdog ADP wide receiver 9, pick 13.5 last year at The Ohio State University, 12 games played, 67 receptions on 117 targets for 1,211 yards, 18.1 yards per reception, and 14 total touchdowns. Back-to-back years, Michael Jordan 96-97 with 1,200 plus receiving yards and 14 total touchdowns. Marvin Harrison is a generational wide receiver. Marvin Harrison is amazing, and he is on an offense with a quarterback who is competent enough to realize that, hey, I need to throw the ball a bunch. To Marvin Harrison, he is the clear wide receiver 1. The talent in the wide receiver core for Arizona is incredibly low, in my opinion. They have some guys like Michael Wilson that have shown some flashes, but again, none of those guys can even hold Marvin Harrison's jock strap, and I think Kyler's going to laser eyes lock into this guy, so I think Marvin Harrison's going to have a fantastic rookie season. Moving now to the C tier, and this is where things, you start to get thrown a little bit more in the mud. Things start to get a little bit grosser. Now, again, these guys are still great, but something I will say is, unlike years prior, when you're drafting first overall, you get McCaffrey, or you get Lamb, or you get Hill, whoever you want at number 1. When things swang back around, it feels a little bit grosser, in my opinion, than normal. Like the second round, the water feels a little bit more muddy. Now, Josh Jacobs is not going in the second round right now. He's going at pick 38 on underdog, running back 10 off the board, which to me makes 0 sense. Now, some people be like, Nick, don't you know, that's a Canada accent, don't you know that he's dealing with, or maybe that wasn't too, maybe that was kind of Canadian, kind of Norwegian. Whatever, though, who gives a shit? He's dealing with a hamstring issue in OTAs. Matt LaFleur does not expect it to really impact him at all. So I'm not too worried about it, but some people might be worried. A couple years ago, just like Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs is a guy that people are throwing the fucking crown on him like he won a Fortnite game, okay? They're talking about Josh Jacobs, great running back. And while I understand that he's not going to get crazy volume every single game, because I don't think that's what's going to happen in Green Bay. He's not going to get that crazy Las Vegas Raiders workload, but I don't think he needs that. in Green Bay on an offense that is going to be scoring so many points every single game. Running back 18 in PPR points per game, 13 games played, and he missed the end of the season with that quad strain that kind of elevated Zamir White, who I really like this year. 11th in carries, 24th in rushing yards, 19th in targets. He was 24th in receptions, 19th in receiving yards, and 24th in total touchdowns, 7th in dominator rating. And he did all this while averaging the most amount of defenders in the box. They knew what the Raiders wanted to do. The Raiders' MO was running the rock. Run the rock gently down the stream. And the Packers are a team under Matt LaFleur that likes to run the ball as well. I think Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, can give him 3-4 targets every single game, and that will be able to keep up his consistency game in and game out. Do I think that Dylan Lobb is certified bum? No, he's going to get touches. I think A.J. Dillon is a bum, though, and I think he might end up getting cut. Snippy, right off the team. Jacobs, again, the talent's there. He's on a fantastic offense. I think people are just overthinking things. I don't know what people are thinking because I don't understand how you can get Josh Jacobs in the 3rd or 4th round of some drafts. To me, that makes 0 sense. I don't understand why people are... What are you nervous about Josh Jacobs? To me, there's no worry. Okay, number 15, A.J. Brown, wide receiver of the Eagles, underdog ADP, wide receiver 7 at pick 10.2. Now, I am someone that is not the biggest A.J. Brown guy for fantasy on the Eagles. Now, it's not because I think the Eagles are bad. It's just because I feel like A.J. Brown isn't going to be very consistent. And when you're taking him inside the 1st round, like a lot of people are, there are some question marks for me. And maybe I'm a little bit just worried that, hey, maybe with Saquon, they're going to just try to run the ball more. And maybe the offense reduces slightly. Like maybe there's more issues without Kelsey. And maybe that ends up fucking A.J. Brown. I don't know. Maybe I'm just really overthinking things. Like the hamster is just running in my brain on the wheel. And it's just making me think crazy. Because I'm not saying to full fade A.J. Brown. I just don't love him in the 1st round. It's kind of my take on him. The guy's amazing. He is one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. It's just like, I feel like Devontae Smith's going to play better this year. Like, I just feel like he's going to be more involved than he was last year. Like, he didn't have a great last season. And if he has a more of a bounce back season, then that's going to kind of stab A.J. Brown in the back. So that's kind of just my thought on things. Wide receiver 5 in PPR, 8 in PPR points per game. Again, if you draft him in the 1st round, though, again, I don't think he's really going to be disappointing. I'm just not super excited to draft him. That's why he's my player 15. Wide receiver 5 last year in PPR, 8 in points per game. He was 8th in targets, 7th in receptions, 5th in receiving yards, and 18th in total touchdowns. 9th in yards per out run, 7th in yards per team pass attempt, 15th in dominator rating, and 10th in target accuracy. Again, it's not like there's not a lot of holes in A.J. Brown's game, right? It's not a Swiss cheese type of deal here. A.J. Brown is really good. So again, while I have my slight worries about maybe Devontae Smith getting more and maybe the consistency issues of A.J. Brown, sure, while that does concern me, it doesn't concern me enough to where I'm just going to sit here and just yap for an hour about why I don't like him. Again, while I wouldn't draft him at pick 10.2, they're in the 2nd round early on. I'm fine taking him. Again, I'd be fine taking him over Josh Jacobs. In most drafts, I probably would end up taking him ahead of Josh Jacobs because I think Josh Jacobs might swing back to me in the 3rd round. Kind of my thoughts on things. At number 16, we got Garrett Wilson. Now, Garrett Wilson, to me, feels like a trap. It's a trap. Fucking Admiral Akbar style. Feels like we have gotten suckered in so many times in a row to Garrett Wilson. Something's just going to bound to falling in love. Something's just going to go wrong again. Now, again, there's nothing to base that upon, right? I don't think Aaron Rodgers needs to be like what I talked about Breece Hall, right? I don't think Aaron Rodgers needs to be amazing for Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, these guys to succeed. But something is just telling me, like, we've bought so much into the talent of Garrett Wilson. What happens if Rodgers is just kind of mid, and then maybe that does hurt Garrett Wilson, even though I don't think it will? Something just feels fucking fishy about drafting Garrett Wilson in the end of the 1st round again. Wide receiver 8, pick 11.2. Wide receiver 26 in PPR, 33 in PPR points per game. He was 11th in total route wins, 76th in target accuracy. Obviously, that's going to be better. 4th in targets, 13th in receptions, 22nd in receiving yards, 58th in total touchdowns. Now, there is more competition now in this Jets wide receiver room compared to last year. They bring in Magic Mike Williams. I know Mike Williams gets hurt fucking lacing his cleats up. He gets hurt tying his shoes. He gets hurt tripping on some soap in the shower. Okay? He stubs his toe. He's out for fucking 10 weeks. Okay? But that is more competition than he's ever had. So again, while I'm not in wee-woo, full-on panic mode, something just feels a little, you can smell it. It feels a little fishy again with Garrett Wilson. I'm just being honest with you. Again, I love the talent, but I worry a little bit. Shout out to Tug Speedman. At number 17, we got Drizzy Drake London, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons. Underdog ADP wide receiver 10 at pick 14.9. Now, Drizzy Drake London was another guy that basically got hit with a swirly by the offense that he was in. Arthur Smith, certified bozo, certified dunce, and Drake London, the certified lover boy, Drizzy Drake London, was basically just held captive by that, held captive by the awful quarterback play. Everything was wrong in Atlanta, everything. And Drake London still played great in spots. Again, the stats aren't mouthwatering. He was wide receiver 37 in PPR, 44 in PPR points per game. I get it. It wasn't great. But you have to watch the tape. You have to look at the games. You can say, hey, Drake London's wide open, and Desmond Ridder, the probably now Uber driver, has no idea. Like, he's going to drop off my fucking DoorDash order later. He's trash. He can't play, okay? He's bad. Again, I don't know how good Kirk Cousins is going to be coming off the Achilles, but it's got to be better than what we saw last year. Drake London, 24th in targets, 69 receptions. Very nice, I like. Number 30 at receiver, 30th in receiving yards, 76th in total touchdowns. Again, stats don't show the whole picture. The stats don't paint the Van Gogh beautiful picture. Drake London is that guy. I believe in him, and I've got him in the C tier. Number 18 and 19, we got two running backs. Number 18, we got Derrick Henry, running back of the Baltimore Ravens. Underdog ADP, running back 9 at pick 30.8. Now, I talked about this recently. I don't remember which video I talked about this in. Maybe it was the mock draft yesterday. But Derrick Henry basically got like a pimp my ride level boost up, right? He came in with some car that looks like it was hit by a fucking meteor that took out the dinosaurs. And he comes out with this crazy looking car that's got a, for some reason, if anyone ever watched Pimp My Ride back in the day, I was pretty young, so I don't remember exactly what was in, but there was like cars where there'd be like a fucking fish tank, Nemo and Dory are in there, right? Just this crazy renovation, right? Going from the Titans to the Ravens. I'm actually kind of a Titans, not a truther, but I kind of like the Titans this year. But that's for another video because there's no Titans ranked in the top 24. Remember the Titans, though, because Derrick Henry used to be a Titan, and now he's on the Ravens, a much, like, moving up in the world. Again, we know who Derrick Henry is. This guy's not going to catch a million passes. If he gets 40 targets, I'd be happy. If he gets around 30, it's fine as well. Catches passes better than he used to, but again, he's no McCaffrey. Running back 8 in PPR last year, 16 in points per game. Number 1 in carries, number 2 in rushing yards, 39th in targets, 36th in receptions, 28th in receiving touchdowns, receiving yards, oh my gosh. And then 6th in total touchdowns. We've been doing one-take videos. I don't know if you guys have noticed. The only cut is from the intro to the outro. I think it's a little more fun this way. So if I mess up slightly, I'm not going to just restart. Now, if I punched my mic, Mike Tyson style, or something crazy happened, then obviously, or if I really slipped up, then yeah, I'd edit it out. But now we're just kind of running. I've just been running. 6th in total touchdowns, 10th in yards created, 9th in evaded tackles, 8th in breakaway run rate, 5th in dominator rating. What is the negative to Derrick Henry? He's old. That's what you'll say. What other negative is there? There isn't any. There really isn't any. He's on the Ravens now. He's on a team that had Gus Edwards scoring a gazillion touchdowns. Derrick Henry could legitimately score 20 touchdowns. Now, him scoring 20 touchdowns is really his only path to finishing as the running back 1. Because he doesn't catch that many passes, and that is so crucial in half PPR, full PPR formats. But at running back 9, and he's coming off the board at pick 30.8, you're getting a steal to me on the Ravens. One of the premier running backs, like rushers in the NFL. A guy that could rip off 1,400 rushing yards, could score 20 touchdowns. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. At number 19, we got Isaiah Pacheco, another guy that is criminally underrated. Underdog ADP running back 12, pick 46.8, Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs. Running back 15 last year in PPR, 14 in PPR points per game, 14 games played, 13 starts. He misses 3 games with a sprained shoulder at the tail end of the season, but then he's back for the playoffs. 22nd in carries, 18th in rushing yards, 22nd in targets, 17th in receptions, 22nd in receiving yards, 12th in total touchdowns. He ranked 12th in yards created. He ranked 15th in dominator rating, 11th in breakaway run rate, and 2nd in catch rate. This is a team that behind Isaiah Pacheco does not have much depth. Jerick McKinnon is not back. They don't have a prototypical pass-catching running back. Sure, they have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but Pacheco can catch passes. That's what we saw in the playoffs. This is a guy that, when he was playing towards the end of the season, was really starting to become this top 6, top 8 guy weekly. I think he could do that this year. This is a Chiefs offense that I think in the regular season is going to be a lot better. Now, I know Rashee Rice might be serving a sentence or something, but even if it's just a couple of games, like they have Hollywood, they have Xavier Worthy, they have Kelsey. Like, this is going to be a great offense, and Pacheco is going to benefit off that. On an offense like the Chiefs, a running back that might legitimately be a workhorse catching even more passes, sign me up. Moving now to the D tier. This is where the question marks really start to set in for me. Again, I started to worry inside the C tier. Now in the D tier, it's like, we're kind of down bad right now. Now again, we're not down bad like Ayuk, DJ Moore, Wiki. These are great fucking receivers. These guys are amazing. But there are some more question marks with them, in my opinion. For instance, Brandon Ayuk. What happens if Deebo Samuel goes out there and actually has this season that everyone's been projecting him to have for years, right? What if Deebo Samuel starts catching more passes, right? Ayuk is not the most consistent guy weekly. Deebo, much worse in consistency, but he's still not the most consistent. The team that has a lot of weapons. The team that has a running back who's basically a receiver in McCaffrey. Now, Brandon Ayuk should finish as a top 12 receiver, so I'm fine drafting him at pick 20. I'm fine with that. Wide receiver 11 off the board, pick 17.5. Wide receiver 14 in PPR last year, 15 in PPR points per game. 30th in targets, 24th in receptions, 7th in receiving yards, 18th in total touchdowns. His efficiency stats are off the chain. His efficiency stats are insane in the membrane. 3rd in yards per route run, 2nd in yards per target, 2nd in yards per reception, and 9th in true catch rate. Brandon Ayuk has all of the skill, but Deebo, in a way, is kind of holding him back from being truly great. So, with Ayuk, again, I like Ayuk. But if you ask me, August, late August, early September, I might flip to liking DJ more. I just might. Again, Nick, you know DJ Moore has Keenan Allen and Roman Dunze around him. I know, but I feel like I trust DJ Moore. I might end up trusting DJ Moore a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. Consistency. Pick number 21. Can you do something for me? DJ Moore, underdog ADP, wide receiver 18, pick 27. I think a lot of people are throwing away the draft button on DJ Moore because of these other guys on the team. I think Caleb Williams is the guy. I think Caleb Williams is better than Tyson Bagent and Justin Fields. And Tyson Bagent and Justin Fields got DJ Moore to be a top 6 receiver in PPR, top 9 in PPR points per game. 14th in targets in 17 games, 12th in receptions, 6th in receiving yards, 10th in total touchdowns. 35th in target accuracy, 8th in contested catch rate, 4th in dominator rating. Again, I get that there's more competition than ever in Chicago. Get that, but I still think DJ Moore is going to be sucking in targets, Herbie style, around 7.5, 8 targets a game. I'm excited for it again, especially on an offense that I think really has the chance to take the offense into an overdrive this year with Caleb Williams. Moving now to the E tier at number 22, we got Devin Achane, running back of the Miami Dolphins, underdog ADP running back 8, pick 24.2. Why is Devin Achane in a tier by himself? Because Kyren Williams, who's in the next tier, there's a little bit of an issue with Kyren Williams that we're going to talk about in a second. Devin Achane feels weird in the second round. Why does it feel weird? It feels weird because, for one, they have Raheem Mostert. And while it's a similar situation, I guess, with Gibbs and with Achane, but Achane last year, there were games where he hit the John Cena, you can't see me. He fully disappeared, right? He went to go get milk and he never came back, right? That type of scenario. Which worries me a little bit more. They draft Jalen Wright. So maybe instead of this being a two-headed backfield, this is a three-headed horse, three-headed dragon. Instead of being two like Jakiro, it's three. It's a little concerning. Now again, he's amazing. Second in yards per target, first in yards per touch, third in juke rate, first in breakaway run rate. He had 4 fucking starts last year. He's the running back 5 in PPR points per game. He's amazing when he gets the ball. 47th in carries, 25th in rushing yards, 35th in targets, 38th in receptions, 34th in receiving yards, 9th in total touchdowns. Come late August, it might be crystal clear, right? It might be like you sprayed Windex on your glass and you can just see like 4K out the window, right? But right now, the window's a little foggy, right? A little concerning because we don't know for sure what this backfield's going to look like. I think come August we'll know. We'll know, hey, how involved is Mostert? How involved is A-Chain? How involved is Jalen Wright? And that will heavily swing the pendulum right now, okay? So right now in May, I'm not ready to sit here and fully bang the drum for him, and that's why it feels a little bit gross drafting him in the second round. Moving now to the F tier, we got players 23 and 24. Kyren Williams. We teased it a little bit. You naughty teasing me. Shout out to, I can't remember the guy's name. The number one teaser. We all know who you're talking about in the fantasy industry. You know, back in the day. Kyren Williams, running back of the LA Rams. Underdog ADP, running back 7, pick 21.2. Running back 7 last year in PPR, 2 in PPR points per game. This guy snatched Cam Akers' chain. This guy was amazing last year. 13th, if you picked him up off the waiver wire, Jeff's kiss magnifique, beautiful. 13th in carries, 3rd in rushing yards, 24th in targets, 28th in receptions, 32nd in receiving yards, 3rd in total touchdowns. 8th in yards per carry, 13th in yards per touch, 9th in yards created, 2nd in dominator rating. This is a guy that has injury concerns written all over him. He's out of OTAs with a foot issue. I'm sure Rex Ryan would love to check that out, making him fall down my rankings. A free fall. Now, Sean McVay says Kyren Williams is good. He has a little bit of a foot issue, but we're going to be smart with him. We're not going to mess with it now. He'll be ready by training camp. And according to Coach Speak Index, which is an index that I trust, McVay has a 90% reliability rating to injury Coach Speak. They believe Kyren will be fine. So we should as well. My thought. But I think the safe thing right now is to move him down the rankings, right? The safe thing now is if I was doing a bunch of underdog drafts, then maybe, I'm so fine clicking Kyren Williams, but maybe I'm not, if I was going to do it, if I do 10 drafts and like Kyren fell to me at pick, say, now people are nervous, say he's picked 25. Instead of clicking that button, what I might have done, even though they drafted a running back, right, from Michigan, maybe I might have clicked it 4 out of 5 times, right, because I like the value, I like the talent, right? Now maybe I might click it just once, or maybe not at all, until I hear some more news. Now, OTAs, he's fine. He might just skyrocket up the board. That's kind of the risk you're taking right now with drafting early. Now, running back, they drafted Blake Corum, very solid at Michigan. Drafted him in the middle rounds of the draft. Again, he's good. I don't think Kyren was ever going to get the crazy volume, 19 carries per game like he got last year. So that's fine. The fact that he's injured right now scares me enough to not rank him higher, and I think it should scare you as well. Again, it's not like the first time I saw a Paranormal Activity ad and there was shit running down my drawers as like a 9-year-old, okay? But also, it's not like wee woo, mayday, but it's also not like, oh, we're going to be fine, right? There's little reason to be worried. At number 24, we got Chris Olave, wide receiver of the New Orleans Saints. Underdog ADP, shout out Mike Tyson. Wide receiver 12, pick 18.2. I made a video talking about players you don't want to draft, and Chris Olave was one of them. Reason why I'm worried about Chris Olave? Not because Chris Olave is bad. Chris Olave is really good. The reason why I'm worried about Chris Olave is because Derek Carr have zero chemistry. Derek Carr, even if they had chemistry, I'd be suspect of because Derek Carr looks like trash. Looks like a 2-pack of ass. Okay? So I worry. Again, he'll probably finish as like a top 18 receiver and you'll be fine. You just don't draft him as a top 12 guy. If he falls in the draft, I'm fine with that, right? When he's going in the middle, the early second round, it scares me, right? I put on the gloves and I back up, right? I'm like O.J. Simpson on trial, standing there with my hands up with the gloves on, right? If the glove don't fit, we must acquit, okay? I'm nervous about drafting Chris Olave that early. The end of the second, in the early third, it starts to feel a little bit better. Now, again, I'm still cautious with Chris Olave. There are other players going around Chris Olave that, rankings 25 through 30 that we're not talking about right now, argue that, hey, I'd rather have that guy over Chris Olave. Again, this is the range in the draft towards the end of the second round where it starts to feel more suspect, which hasn't been the case necessarily in years prior. Now, things might be more clear come August with a lot of these guys, like A-Chain, like Kyron, and you can move them on up or jump them all down. Again, Olave is a great player. He was basically screwed by Derek Carr last year, 72nd, but they don't really have like the behind, not like Jameis is there and you can be like, oh, Jameis is going to feed Olave if Carr gets benched. Now they have Walmart Mahomes, fucking great value Mahomes, Spencer Rattler. Again, I like Olave, the player. I just don't love the situation. Again, he's really good. Last year, 16 PPR, last year, 20 points per game. 11 games started, 16 games played, 12th in targets, 14th in receptions, 17th in receiving yards, 29th in total touchdowns. Some of the efficiency metrics worry me. 46th in yards per target, 49th in yards per reception, 75th in contested catch rate. Again, if I want to make the positive argument, I'm trying to be more positive here. The positive argument is Derek Carr, despite how bad he was last year, maybe he gets slightly better, and Chris Olave is so good that it doesn't matter. That's the argument you can have, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close my ears, right? Blah, 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 and fucking talk myself into him if I have to draft him. If he falls to the position where I can draft him, I will talk myself into him because there are arguments into drafting him. But when he's going in the middle of the second round, I'm saying hell to the nah. I'm not touching that. So this was a longer video, 45 plus minutes. If you enjoyed, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button down below. Love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Love you guys. Have a great one. And as always, good boy.